As we mentioned earlier, the Soyuz MS-13 spacecraft began its journey off of Launch Site 1 at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan 5 hours, 37 minutes ago at 11:28 a.m. Central Time, 9:28 p.m. in Baikonur, about an hour after sunset. The main engines ignited, hold-down gantry arms swung back, and the Soyuz began its trek uphill, arcing out to the northeast, away from the Baikonur Cosmodrome, to an orbit inclined 51.6 degrees to either side of the equator. It was an uneventful, flawless climb to orbit, 8 minutes and 45 seconds of powered flight on the 3 stages of the Soyuz booster. Very visible throughout the Central Asian desert as it lit up the night skies. And at the 8-minute 45-second mark, the third stage shut down and the third stage separated from the Soyuz vehicle. And you'll see a moment from now a rare sight that we have not seen before, and that being the deployment of the Soyuz's solar arrays and navigational antennas. And there goes the beginning of the solar array deployment sequence just seconds after the third stage separated and dropped away. At that point, the Soyuz was in its preliminary orbit to begin its 4-orbit trek to reach the International Space Station.
Copy. Let's stand by for a few minutes. We don't need those templates yet. We're still waiting. Just a little bit later. All right, then I'll be standing by for your go.
Утесок, ЦУП Москвы. Наблюдаем изображение с камеры.
We are receiving camera image. The transmitter
Развернуть изображение на весь экран.
activated. Could you please make a full screen image? Copy in work.
As mentioned before, and not to be lost on the events transpiring here today, about an hour before the Soyuz launch, the legendary flight director Gene Kranz, who was the flight director on console when Apollo 11 landed on the moon 50 years ago today, visited the International Space Station Flight Control Room with Chief Flight Director Holly Ridings, having an opportunity to share some moments with Flight Director Mary Lawrence of the Orbit 2 team of flight controllers and spacecraft communicator Andreas Mogensen. Kranz, along with other Apollo 11 veterans who were on console 50 years ago today for the epic landing of the lunar module Eagle at Tranquility Base, then posed for pictures. A very historic and unique moment in human spaceflight history, of course, reenacted today, a half-century later, coincidental with the launch of 3 new residents to the International Space Station. And it was just about 2 hours ago at 3:18 p.m. Central Time that clocks up on the front screens here in Mission Control marked the moment that Eagle landed at Tranquility Base near the crater Moltke, that landing occurring at 3:18 p.m. Central Time, 4:18 p.m. Eastern Time. But the item at hand right now is the approach of the Soyuz to the International Space Station. Everything is proceeding on track. We're about 18.5 minutes away from the start of a 67-degree fly-around by the Soyuz as it reaches the vicinity and close proximity to the International Space Station that will precisely align its forward docking probe with the aft port of the Zvezda service module. There will be a short period of station keeping to enable flight controllers there in that room at the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolyov to check the Soyuz systems before the commands are given for final approach and the eventual docking that is scheduled at 5:51 p.m. Central Time, 6:51 p.m. Eastern Time. And once again, this view from the cross-haired engineering camera on the exterior of the Soyuz vehicle. You can see in the lower left-hand corner the distance between Soyuz and the International Space Station is 5.7 kilometers, and the value just underneath it in the lower left-hand corner is the rate of closure, almost 8 meters per second. At the time of contact and capture, the Soyuz will be traveling at a glacial 1/10 of a meter per second. At contact and capture, there will be a few seconds in which the relative motion between the two vehicles will be allowed to dampen out before the forward docking probe retracts on the Soyuz to essentially pull in the two docking interfaces between the Soyuz and the aft port of the Zvezda service module, setting the stage for the closure of the hooks on the service module to form a hard mate. Folks on social media who have been submitting questions at hashtag AskNASA, those questions coming in on this 50th anniversary of the landing of Apollo 11 on the moon. Project Discovery asks, how long after the Soyuz rocket launches are the crew members officially in space? What is the shortest time it takes to arrive at the International Space Station? It takes 8 minutes, 45 seconds for the Soyuz to travel from the launch pad at the Baikonur Cosmodrome to reach its preliminary orbit. This particular rendezvous is timed out for 4 orbits, or 6 hours roughly, from the time of launch to the time of docking. The Russians are working on a shorter time frame in which it may be possible for crew members to reach the station in just 2 orbits, or just over 3 hours of transit time from launch to docking. That technique has been accomplished several times now on unpiloted Progress resupply vehicles, and may next year be employed for piloted launches involving astronauts and cosmonauts. Countdown clocks here are ticking backward toward the expected docking of Soyuz to the aft port of the Zvezda service module some 37.5 minutes from now. We're inside 14 minutes prior to the start of this fly-around technique, which again will enable the Soyuz to basically work its way around the International Space Station at an angle of 67 degrees at a range of 400 meters to precisely align itself with the aft port of Zvezda. This is an unusual docking port for Soyuz vehicles. Typically, they dock at either the Poisk module on the space-facing side of the Russian segment of the station, or the Rosviet module on the Earth-facing side of the Russian segment. The Soyuz MS-12 that brought up Alexei Ovchinin, Nick Hague, and Christina Koch back in mid-March, it is docked to Rosviet. The aft port of Zvezda was employed so that the Russians have another docking port available for an unpiloted Soyuz vehicle that is scheduled to launch next month on a test flight on an upgraded Soyuz 2.1A booster to prove the worthiness of that booster to accommodate human Soyuz missions with astronauts and cosmonauts on board that would begin next March. Again, a view of the International Space Station from the MS-13 external camera. We are 3.5 kilometers away from docking, closing at a rate of 7.8 meters per second, everything going exceedingly well. The Soyuz engines are conducting a series of so-called impulse burns, very small thruster firings that are employed to fine-tune the Soyuz's path during the home stretch of this rendezvous that will carry Drew Morgan, Luca Parmitano, and Alexander Skvortsov to a docking some 35 minutes from now. The crew has reported throughout the course of the day following their launch from the Baikonur Cosmodrome that they feel well. All of the Soyuz systems are operating flawlessly, and everything is proceeding on track for a link-up that will bring the crew in for its docking to the aft port of the Zvezda service module shortly.
Утесы.
Утесы, Moscow.
Третий импульс.
We're standing by for
01:17:20.
burn
Расчетное
number
время.
3,
На дальности 2 километра.
5 at the range of 2 kilometers.
Да, принято.
Copy, Moscow.
We're in a handover right now between satellites on our tracking and data relay satellite system. We'll pick up the downlink television views from both the ISS and Soyuz just a moment or two from now. We are less than 10 minutes away from the start of the flyaround by the Soyuz of the International Space Station. All of the impulse burns to fine-tune the Soyuz's path to the station are proceeding on a pre-programmed schedule. No issues associated with the approach of the Soyuz and its 3 crew members, who soon will reach their destination.
The parameters are nominal.
After the Soyuz docks and a hard mate is achieved, there will be a period of about an hour and 40 minutes in which the crew members on both sides of the docking interface will conduct leak checks to make sure we have a tight seal at that docking interface between the Soyuz and the aft port of the Zvezda service module before the small vestibule or passageway is pressurized between the docking interface points. That will set the stage for the hatch opening and the greetings between the crew members, who will see each other for the first time. They then will receive congratulatory calls from friends and family and VIPs who are gathered at a hall in downtown Baikonur, not far from the Cosmodrome from which Morgan, Parmitano, and Skvortsov left the planet about 5 hours and 50 minutes ago.
We can see the station.
Утесы, было небольшое.
Утесы, there was a short LOS.
Поняли, что импульс отработал.
So the burn is complete. Is this correct understanding? Yes, that's right. Everything is nominal. 1,000 meters is the range, and the station is in the middle of the crosshairs. We can say it. Copy.
The International Space Station and the Soyuz soon to greet one another in orbit, flying 254 miles above Bogota, Colombia, moving from southwest to northeast in an orbit inclined 51.6 degrees to either side of the equator. We're about 7 minutes away from the initiation of the fly-around. This view from a camera on the International Space Station. You're looking at the Soyuz MS-12 spacecraft that is at the Earth-facing port on the Rassvet module of the International Space Station. That is the Soyuz vehicle that carried Christina Koch, Nick Hague, and Alexei Ovchinin, the current station commander, to the space station back on March 15th.
Station Houston on Space to Ground 3. Good evening, Christina. Just a friendly 5-minute heads up on cupola shutter close constraint. And also I have you, Pluto's discovered that the JSL firewall is in fact blocking the iPad Fit app. So we'll need some time during the week to run that down.
Copy 5 minutes, and we also copy the good news that we have a presumed solution for the Fit app. And we have tally-ho on the vehicle. We'll make sure the shutters are closed within 5 minutes.
Copy. Tally-ho.
Once again, the view from the external camera on Soyuz MS-13, just 1.2 kilometers, 1,200 meters, separating the Soyuz from the aft port of the Zvezda service module, closing at a rate of just under 4 meters per second. And there you can see the windows on the cupola being commanded to be shut by Christina Koch, who has been looking out those windows, trying to capture views of the Soyuz during its final approach for docking. The flight rules call for those windows to be closed on the cupola as a protection for those very precious windows and their external scratch panes during the time of final approach, so that they're not impinged by any Soyuz thruster firings as it approaches the close proximity of the International Space Station. The Soyuz now about 1,000 meters away, as we are now just about 4.5 minutes away from the start of the fly-around of the International Space Station.
Started firing. This is the first one. Copy. We are seeing that. Unintelligible.
Soyuz and its 3 occupants, Alexander Skvortsov in the center seat of the descent module as the Soyuz commander, flanked to his left by board engineer number 1, Luca Parmitano of the European Space Agency, and Drew Morgan, board engineer 2, seated in the right seat, now 835 meters away from the aft port of the Zvezda service module, closing at a rate of 2.3 meters per second. And the visiting vehicle officer here in Mission Control reports good impulse burns of the Soyuz thrusters. Once again, these are small mid-course correction burns to fine-tune the Soyuz path to reach the beginning of its fly-around, which is scheduled to get underway less than 3 minutes from now.
I can do that. This is Luca. Great. Now we are receiving a wonderful picture.
And a good view of the International Space Station from that external camera.
The station is now very clear. Thank you.
And from the International Space Station, our first view of the Soyuz MS-13 as it approaches the neighborhood of the International Space Station, right on course, right on time for the start of its fly around just 2 minutes from now, docking scheduled 25.5 minutes from now. The two vehicles, separated now by just a few hundred meters, are flying 254 miles over the Atlantic Ocean, moving from southwest to northeast, soon to enter an orbital sunset.
Скоро кислород включится, да?
"50 years ago at this hour, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin were preparing to suit up earlier than planned to begin their historic first footsteps on the moon. 50 years later, a trio of multinational space explorers closing in for a docking to the International Space Station to continue and expand the crew size on board the complex, as well as the unbroken permanent human presence on the international outpost. Approaching the 400-meter mark between Soyuz and the International Space Station.
Назначился облет.
Flyaround has started.
Принято облет.
Copy. Flyaround is confirmed.
And confirmation that the fly around by the Soyuz of the International Space Station has begun. 370 meters separating the two vehicles. Soyuz closing at a rate of just over 1 meter per second. This fly around will precisely align the Soyuz with the aft docking port of the Zvezda service module that was launched 19 years ago atop a Proton rocket from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. This is a 67-degree fly around, once again precisely aligning the Soyuz with Zvezda. Flight controllers at the Russian Mission Control Center will spend a few moments evaluating all the systems on the Soyuz vehicle before the automatic command to begin final approach is initiated. Just over 6 hours ago, this vehicle sat atop a Soyuz booster in the Central Asian desert, and now just minutes away from reaching its destination at the International Space Station. Russian flight controllers at the Russian Mission Control Center on the outskirts of Moscow have reported that the Russian segment is go for docking. Everything in readiness for the expected link-up of Soyuz to the aft port of the Zvezda service module less than 20 minutes from now. And a spectacular view at an orbital sunset of the approaching Soyuz MS-13. As it flies past the Soyuz MS-12 on the Earth-facing side of the Russian segment of the station, docked to the Rassvet module. Two human spaceflight vehicles, like ships passing in the night, as the MS-13 seeks its port at the aft of the Zvezda service module. The MS-13 continuing its fly around that will align it to the aft port of the Zvezda service module just a couple of moments from now for a brief period of station keeping. About 2/3 of the way through the fly around. Once again, that station keeping period, which only lasts just a few seconds, allows the Russian flight controllers in Korolyov at the Russian Mission Control Center an opportunity to check the Soyuz systems before the initiation of the automatic command for final approach is offered. The two vehicles about 200 meters from each other. And you can see thruster firings on the Soyuz, all automatically controlled by its onboard computers as it prepares to park itself for a short period of time just a couple of 100 meters to the aft of the Zvezda service module.
Утесы, как наблюдаете станцию ПВС?
Lucy, can you see the station via the VSK? Yes, we can see it through the periscope very well. We can see it very well through the VSK. It's illuminated well. And the docking node is a bit dark, but that was expected. Copy. Yes, we can see the same through the camera. Yeah, we see that it is dark. That's correct.
And you can see the Soyuz rolling into the proper orientation for its solar arrays in advance of the start of final approach.
The illumination, floodlight, and please send the final approach command once the illumination is on. Okay.
Soyuz now in station keeping.
On the floodlight. Yes, you can send the final approach command now. Copy.
Flight controllers in Korolyov happy with what they're seeing. The command about to be given for the start of final approach.
So we are go to send the final approach command, correct? Yes, you're go. It work? Okay, so okay, so we are not switching to the wide angle anymore. That's correct. We are gaining some speed here. Copy. We can see that. We can see the station. It's stable. I can
Final approach now initiated. 160 meters separating Soyuz from the International Space Station, closing at a rate now of 0.7 of a meter per second.
And the flight light as well, correct? Okay, I'm just double checking. Copy. It is illuminated. Wonderful. So we're within the approach corridor and everything is nominal. Copy. The docking node, the docking port is visible. I can't see the target yet. Copy.
Inside 100 meters, closing at a rate of 0.5 meter per second. Soyuz and the International Space Station about to fly directly over London.
In accordance with course data, you're 90 meters away. That is correct. We are within the approach corridor, where the range is 0.82. We are braking right now. It is around 0.35 meters per second. Copy.
meters.
70 meters. I confirm, based on the docking port angles, that it is approximately 0.3. Meters left. Okay, copy. You can try to send AGC one more time. Do you want me to send AGC one more time? Try to do it, please. Maybe it will be you'll see everything better in this case. Okay, let me try to do it right now. I'm sending this command right now. Oh yeah, it's much better.
Расстояние 50.
The range is 55 meters.
0,2 на сближение.
0.2 meters per second is the rate.
Пока все в норме, но мишень не наблюдаю пока.
Everything is nominal, but I still can't see the target.
Принято.
Copy. Okay, copy.
Чем ближе будем подходить,
I believe you will see, the closer you are, the better you will see the target.
Да, понял.
Slowly but surely, the Soyuz negotiating the final 50 meters prior to docking, closing at a rate of 0.2 of a meter per second. You're looking right up the barrel there of the aft port of the Zvezda service module. That's the destination for MS-13 and its three-man crew.
1:46. It is 1:41 right now, so we still have a good 5 minutes.
На свету?
Do you mean docking when we have all the lights on?
да, я думаю, успеем состыковаться еще до входа в тень.
Actually, I believe that we will be able to dock before there is an eclipse there. Copy.
Подтверждаю по угловым размерам.
40 meters based on the angles of the docking port.
Есть готовность СВП.
We are ready for SSVP, the docking mode execution.
The Soyuz aligning itself with the crosshairs on the docking target at the aft port of the Zvezda service module.
Начинаю наблюдать мишень.
I think I see the target right now.
Находимся правее.
It is
Чуть правее.
slightly to the right, and it's lower than the crosshair. So this is where the roll axis is. This is where the target is. Okay, copy.
Only about 20 meters left, everything going smoothly. We're about to lose the Soyuz behind structure.
Мишень устойчиво наблюдаем.
I can see the target clearly.
This view now from Soyuz, closing at a rate of 0.1 of a meter per second. Good alignment on the docking target.
Higher and a little bit to the right from the crosshairs.
Есть некоторое гуляние.
There is still some wiggle room here. I don't know.
Принято.
Copy.
Скорость 0,1 сближение 22 метра.
The rate is 0.1 meters per second. And 22 meters is the range.
Прошла инструкция готовность СВП. Но идем немножко так вот.
The docking mode execution has been prepared.
Мишень слева внизу.
You can see it on the left and
Практически выбрал.
below
Приняли.
the crosshairs. Copy. It's along the roll axis.
Мишень практически в центре.
The target is almost at the center. Copy.
Вот сейчас уже хорошо проявляется из-за...
Yeah, we can see the picture very well. It's very clear right now.
We're handing over satellites on the tracking and data relay satellite system.
Brief dropout. We can't see the picture anymore. Can you please keep reporting what's happening?
10 meters separating Soyuz from its destination.
Хорошо слышно.
And the test is complete.
Расстояние сейчас порядка 10 метров.
The range is approximately 10 meters. The target is slightly to the right,
Но скорость 0,1 на сближение нормально.
but the rate is 0.1 meters per second. It's nominal.
На сближение. 0,13 на сближение.
0.13 meters per second.
Мишень Кришик собрана чуть выше перекрестия.
And the target is slightly higher than the cross.
5 meters separating Soyuz from the station as we stand by for contact and capture.
7 meters. Copy.
Ну, практически в нуль идем. Нормально.
Okay. 0.1 meters per second is the rate. It's nominal.
Подтверждаю расстояние 4 метра.
4 meters is the range at the moment.
Будет небольшое отклонение.
There will be a slight deviation still.
Но вот оно отбирается.
Yeah, but look, I think it's getting better.
Ожидаю касания.
I'm expecting contact.
Есть касание.
Contact.
Confirmed.
Contact confirmed. Capture confirmed.
Mechanical
Docking confirmed.
We confirm the same.
Docking confirmed at 5:48 p.m. Central Time, 6:48 p.m. Eastern Time over southern Russia. On the 50th anniversary of Tranquility Base, a multinational crew has pulled into port at the International Space Station.
1:48.
Так, посмотри, подвод. Погас?
Is it illuminated? No, it's not illuminated. Everything is nominal. Copy. We see also welcome.
The International Space Station in free drift. The docking probe is beginning to retract. A textbook journey from launch pad to International Space Station for Drew Morgan, Luca Parmitano, and Alexander Skvortsov.
Свет включи.
Turn the lights on. Just like that. Thank you.
Так, персиву, да?
Unintelligible. Copy.
The retraction of the Soyuz docking probe will enable a hard mate between the two vehicles and the closure of the service module hooks. That will set the stage for about an hour and 40 minutes of leak checks on both sides of the docking interface, the precursor to the hatch opening that is scheduled just before 8 p.m. Central Time tonight.
Have you done that, Luca? Yes, I have.
Так.
Hey, Andrew?
Да.
Yes?
Достань, пожалуйста, мановакуметр.
Can you please get the MV, cosmonauts MV, pressure gauge?
Once again, docking occurring a few minutes ahead of schedule at 5:48 p.m. Central Time, 6:48 p.m. Eastern Time over southern Russia. to complete a journey of just over 6 hours and 20 minutes from the time of the Soyuz's launch from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan earlier today.
Is it closed? Affirmative. RPV-1 is closed. Yes, I can confirm that. Copy. And now we are standing by for your readings per table 9-1. The pressure per the MV pressure gauge. Stand by.
Выдает 800.
827 is the pressure. 827. 28. 828. The ISA pressure is 821. BO pressure is 809, and BO pressure is standby. 844.
The docking probe has retracted. The service module hooks are currently driving to form a hard mate between the two vehicles.
This is Baikonur.
Алло.
Yes, hello. Come again. This is Baikonur, Utyosi. How copy? I did not understand anything. Yeah, me neither. Utyosi, Baikonur, how copy? I believe it's Baikonur. Are you asking us if we can hear you? Yes, this is Alexei. Baikonur tried to call you. Yes, Baikonur tried to call you. We have you loud and clear, Baikonur. Alexander, good evening. Congratulations on this successful docking, successful contact. How are you feeling? How was the flight? Thank you very much for your kind words. Everything is great. The crew is feeling well, and we are ready to proceed. Please say hi to Andrew and Luca. And we were slightly worried, as usual. It happens every time. But we knew that everything would go well, and everything went very smoothly. Our colleagues from NASA and ESA are here, and they're also greeting you and saying congratulations. Great job. Everything went really well. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You will join the station crew shortly, and Alexei, Nick, Christina will be there. They're looking forward to seeing you finally. And I believe that all the leak checks will be nominal, and we're already missing you guys. And Fyodor Yurchikin is also saying hi because he misses the station. Yes, of course, we will try to call Fyodor as well. This is Alexei. Thank you very much for your kind words. All right, guys. I'm sure that the scientific program and the expedition program will be completed in full, and we have no doubts about that. Copy? The head of the European Space Agency would like to say congratulations to you as well, and after that we'll continue. Luca?
Hello, this is Jan Werner. Congratulations to the team, to the crew, and congratulations also to all who brought you there.
Thank you. We had a great time. We had a great time flying up, and it's really cool to be here. The spacecraft is perfect, and we are doing just great.
It was a perfect launch. We could see you, and we could see also the ISS flying in front of you. So you were faster, so you reached it. So congratulations again.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we sure caught the ISS right where we meant to, and it's been a great trip already, and we are looking forward to continuing with our job here.
Hello, this is Kirk. I wanted to congratulate you on a beautiful, spectacular launch and your short trip to ISS. Welcome to your new home.
Thank you, Mr. Sherman. The crew feels great, and I feel great. I've got my first view out the windows and of the ISS, and it's as beautiful as I imagined. Thanks for everyone's support.
All right, thank you for the great work that you've done so far to this point, and of course, as Mr. Rogozin was saying, the great work that you guys will do on orbit. Have a great time, enjoy that spectacular view, and every once in a while you can share that with us down here. So all the best.
And we'll do that.
Thank you, Mr. Sherman. We'll certainly will do.
Give me a little spasibo vam всем za все.
Thank you so much for everything. Guys, this is Sergei Krikalev is here as well. My congratulations with a successful docking. I wish you the good flight, and also have fun during your flight, and enjoy performing the experiments in your program. Thank you so much. Thank you for the kind words. So I'm sure everything will go according to the schedule. We hope so. Station Baikonur, guys, thank you so much for your successful work, and have a successful flight, and talk to you next time. Utesy Moscow, how do you copy?
You've been listening there to a series of congratulatory calls from Baikonur, the launch site from which the Soyuz MS-13 began its journey 6.5 hours ago with a spectacular launch about an hour after sunset. The head of Roscosmos, the Russian space agency, Dmitry Rogozin, first congratulated Alexander Skvortsov and the rest of the crew on a very successful docking to the International Space Station. Rogozin was followed by the Director General of the European Space Agency, Jan Werner, who congratulated Luca Parmitano on arriving at his orbital home for the second time. That was followed by ISS Program Manager Kirk Shireman of NASA and Sergei Krikalev, who's the head of piloted programs for Roscosmos, all offering their congratulations on a textbook docking by the Soyuz and its crew to the International Space Station. You heard Drew Morgan telling Kirk Shireman that he feels well, the crew feels great, and he had a spectacular view of the International Space Station out the window of the Soyuz during final approach. So everything is in great shape. The service module hooks are now closed. A hard mate now exists between the Soyuz and the aft port of the Zvezda service module, and the crew will begin a period of leak checks now to set the stage for the opening of the hatches less than 2 hours from now, and the greeting between the newly arrived trio of Drew Morgan, Alexander Skvortsov, and Luca Parmitano, with the Expedition 60 residents that have been on board the station since mid-March, Station Commander Alexei Ovchinin and NASA astronauts Nick Hague and Christina Cook. So with that, just to recap, a flawless docking by Soyuz to the International Space Station, docking occurring at 5:48 p.m. Central Time, 6:48 p.m. Eastern Time over southern Russia to complete a textbook rendezvous following launch from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. With that, we'll wrap up our docking broadcast, and we'll point to you the resumption of coverage just 1 hour from now on NASA television at 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, as we set the stage for the opening of the hatch between the two vehicles, and the greetings and congratulatory calls and welcoming ceremony as the new crew members float on board their new orbital home. For now, we wish you a good evening on this Saturday night on a very historic day in human spaceflight. This is Mission Control Houston.